idea is to show you what is the new way to a holistic approach to science. Exposome, that we are talking today, is an exceptional opportunity to bridge together different expertise, starting from human science to geologists to science, space scientists and so on. Now I am waiting the first lesson. Okay. What is the concept of integrative computational approach of exposome analysis? The omics, genomics, the completion of the Human Genome Project has not only created the basis to work on molecular level on genetic information. However, it has also disclosed different perspectives to consider in a global way different aspects of biology. And now, more or less, there are 25 different omics properties. Proteomics, cellulomics, and so on and so on and so on. Many of them are related to the molecular biology. Others are a little bit less related to the original molecular biology. 5 years ago, there's emerged this new term, exposome, that is proposed by Professor Wild, that is the director of ERC, an international agency on cancer research. When the epidemiologists discovered that it's not possible to explain the emergence of chronic degenerative diseases such as cancer only taking into account mutations, or only to take into account a specific aspect of our life. Then the idea, please, can you? Okay. The outline of my contribution is to show you some basic element of ICT facets of the problem, some aspect of the structural genomics and functional genomics, in terms that the basic element that can be used to face the problem of exposome. I attempted to separate biology from ICT, otherwise there is a confusion, even if biology uses ICT for data organization, for database, for data management, for data communication, what you want. But separating the two aspects give the possibility to evaluate in which way your expertise can be focused on a specific aspect of exposome. Okay, the exposome in general survey is as I said, is a part of omic, and exposome indicate the overall exposure to stressing factors of a specific individual, not only human. Even if the project is started for human health, you can consider it also in a biodiversity aspect, because pollutants can kill not only us, but they destroy plants, they destroy whales, they destroy anything. Then you can decide if you want to apply this kind of integrative approach to human or a specific other fields, as I say, agriculture or biodiversity or what you want. As you can see, the real specific things is the capability to determine the minimal level of exposure due to a contaminant or to a mixture of contaminant along our life, starting from pregnancy to aging. The impact of a contaminant is not equal in different periods. but the impact of pollutants during pregnancy can have the effect 40, 50 years after. Because some pollutants, such as endocrine disruptor or other, can have a subtle modification along your life, and after start the detrimental effect, the disease or some other thing, appears after that they had it too. Then it's very complex to understand. And another aspect is the determination of critical level of overall exposure in different stages of lifespans to develop policies to mitigate the risk of morbidity. The traditional epidemiology, the standard epidemiology, works on a cumulative risk assessment for a specific compound, for a specific cohort of patients. Now we need to establish the dynamic of risk, having different cohort for a specific age of interval from childhood to aging, taking into account the specific set of pollutants that one decide to consider. The pollutants are all, and the other specificity is not to focus the analysis on only one single compound, such as dioxin, pesticide, or what you want, but analyze the context in which a critical set of compounds can enhance or the detrimental effect of critical compounds, I say, for instance, pesticide. In this case, there are considered also the style, the way of life, the lifestyles, the physical activity, the social relations, and in which way one lives. Then, in this case, the concept is what is the environment, the urban or geographical environment, urban, rural, marine, or what you want. In which, and in analyzing it, one having the description of the environmental context is also include the presence for it of a dangerous plant, such as bhopal, for instance. That is, yesterday, 2 days ago, there was the ceremony there, or other possible sources of high pollutants emission. Power plants, steels, what you want. The traffic, even if you smoke, if someone uses illicit substances, all these things act on the human health. Less on the environment, on the agricultural or veterinary aspect. For instance, I guess illicit substances on a cow or on a sheep has less impact. But you can reduce or you can adapt the procedure to a specific area on which one go. Okay. Here you can see a description of the flow chart of the activity that are required for public health. Also, that is the schema in which Exposome is working. We can the flowchart shows 3 different levels. The first is the engineering level. The first that is important because they give the infrastructure to monitor, to physically measure the quantity of pollutants and what kind of pollutant there are. You can see the pollutant information release, emission and monitoring data, ambient data that I have said before, in which environmental context the pollution occurs. The second aspect is the exposure, that is a classical public health, collecting patients, analyzing patients, and then analyze the given information about relation between contaminants and disease emergence. The other is the toxicology is individual, more or less, because we must to understand in which way the pollutants come into our body, breath, food, drink, water, what you want, drugs, therapy and so other. Then we can go down to the more to the molecular level, biomarkers, susceptibility and effect. All these things generate adverse outcome. That is the disease, or it is the environmental damage, or the crop reduction, or what you want. Obviously, this is evaluated for human, but you can see that the integration about the different level. In terms of exposome, we cannot do a real analysis without the support of, for instance, of electronic engineer that produce sensors, or someone that develop high quality data capturing systems. The other is the integration of different sources. That is a typical ICT approach. How to manage this data before to go in toward the true analytical step that one can consider in monitoring in the transition between this phase and the other. You can find here a data analysis of environmental information before to go into microenvironmental situation. Please, thanks. In terms of exposome, now is simplified in three different classes. The general source of exposure, that is general external, that is related to social, that includes social relations, economical status, psychological and mental stress, the environmental context, and the climate. The specific external are radiations, because we are irradiated in a specific situation, but it's more clear: infectious disease, diet, lifestyles, and the chemical and environmental pollutants originated by human activity. Not only because if we have a completely clear earth, there is pollution coming from trees, coming from other things, from natural sources. For instance, terpenes and some specific compounds are emitted by plants, and some of them could be considered as pollutant system, so, but it's only in theoretical way. The last is the internal, that is molecular biology or cellular biology in general sense, that involve metabolism, hormones, but that is messengers, body characteristics, physical activity, that is organismic level, but endogenous microbiome, oxidative stress, products, and aging. This slide show you how many different kinds of data you must consider in exposome, in an exposome perspective. Okay, you can see I have attempted to summarize some of the biomarkers according to the level of investigation in exposome. You can see the class of biomarkers are more or less, you know, anyone: genomics, transcriptomics, and metabolomics. New are more specific class of omics that are adductomics, the formation of adduct DNA adducts, induced, for instance, by
PAH or benzylpyrenes or other similar compounds. The lipidomics, the set of lipids in humans or in an organism. And immunomics is the general view of immunological molecules in animal models and human. The other is this is interesting, the sensor technology, because it's considered a biomarker, the outcome of a sensing system, such as environmental pollutants. For environmental pollutants, why physical activity? Because now we have smartwatch are wearable personal diseases that are capable to transmit information about your stress status to a server, to a health service or other. The stress, the circadian rhythms that change with the season, that change with your stress status and so on. Imaging technology are important because are important at the general level when you make the survey of a specific geological area, towns, what you do. Is also important for behavioral and mental analysis, because now there is the trend to analyze the change in the mood of the subject using imaging systems such as PAT or other systems that are using image analysis. You collect the data, you can after analyze the dynamics of a subject in a time domain under specific stimulus such as happiness, pain, or others, or if you want, also in social relations that are this is one trend of neuroscience, more or less. And the improved conventional measurements are the exposure metrics, that is the classical way to collect the data in an environmental health situation. You have matrices that contains information about the types of contaminants, about the person that have, about the patient. The limit is a matrix, in fact, that contain pollutants and contain information about the area. And so it's some summarization of the different other data. Please. Okay, there emerges also another terms that is called envirome. Exposome, envirome. I have had a lot of trouble to find something, because initially seems two synonyms, okay? Then envirome, exposome seems the same thing. The two terms are a little bit different. If you consider to analyze an holistic snapshot of exposure process on a specific time period, this is exposome. If you consider the same thing in the time domain, this is exposome. Why? Because I consider, for instance, to make the effect of multiple pollutant source on children. I consider the age from 10 to 15 to 20, okay? Then this is envirome. But if you consider, for instance, to study the effect of a specific of pesticides on a population, you must have a different cohort from child to aging. In this case, you have different panel, different data, and in this case, it's an exposome. It's a subtle difference, but the difference include a terrible increasing of data, because in this case I can work on 10,000 subjects. In this case I need 10,000 more, 10,000 times of the original panel, because you need to work at population. In the exposome, now someone attempt to discriminate two different approach, two different subtypes of exposome. The first is the eco-exposome. The second is the social exposome. The eco-exposome is defined by the National Research Council of the USA. It's a quite formal definition, and is an extension of exposure science from a point of contact between stressor and the receptor inward the organism and inward to the general environmental environment, including ecosphere. Then it's not only, in this case, to consider how a pollutant can act on my body, but I also consider the ecosystem in which I am living and in which the pollutant can have an increased or decreased effect for contextual factor. The social exposome essentially is the similar to the previous one, but it's more complex because it's the ensemble of social and political and economical components that could include exposure process. What is this meaning of this thing? You have directly here, I am here in Bhopal. If no chemical plant was decided to install here, probably you don't have any problem. This is in terms of social problems is in eco-exposome, if one must consider what are the political decisions to put a specific dangerous plants or dangerous activity in a specific context. Then this can change, obviously, the probability of morbidity in the population of a specific area. Then these data are very complicated because it implies the political decision, and many of these data coming from census, or they can derive from satellite monitoring. Because satellite monitoring can allow to determine a specific area, to check what is the degree, the level of pollution in a specific area in a specific plant, near a specific installation decided, and this data can help to define the exposome analysis. In terms, it is very important because these data are not molecular, are not cellular, but are the true data that impact on our life, because there are the economic development, there is the sustainability, there is the biodiversity. If they decide to cut trees, such as in Brazil, I can destroy this thing, but I can also, in an indirect way, affect. No anyone knows what is the environmental state. But now there are some organizations that collect this data, mainly non-governmental organizations that collect this information. And this data could be useful, not now, but in the future, to develop or to refine exposome analysis. Thanks. As in terms of a social exposome, that I guess, eco-exposome more or less is biology, or is environment, is a quantitative data. Social exposome is not so quantitative. imply some kinds of decision and also imply from ICT the developments of some specific knowledge discovery that are quite different to classify protein or to find genes, is to extract possible solution by machine learning or by ICT. Individual social exposome is the data collection information about the subject, is the information coming from medical record, coming from interview, coming from Google when you write some information about Amazon or about your customer interest and so on. And for a specific population panel. The local is the analysis and social and political and economic forces that can influence the exposure of population. This is the reason because of the economical aspect, more or less. Plants, infrastructure such as wastewater management and what you want. The last global is out of our control because depends by the international organization, by the central government organization, and it's quite difficult to manage. At this level, we can also only use the data coming from statistics and a report given, for instance, for WHO, United Nations, or APA in the USA, or other organization in Italy or in India, please. Okay, we are in which in the eco-exposome is quite, as I said before, is quite related to the normal activity of a bioinformatician, ICT, or bioinformatics, because we have the data about molecular biomonitoring and medical records, medical informatics. The other is the official statistics and epidemiological studies. Then are data that are easy to obtain, relatively easy to obtain. The local, you can correlate one-to-one the panel of your data, of your subjects, to their social environment. If you stay in a area of a town, or you stay in a part of with the rich people, with the kind of education, with kind of infrastructure do you have, it's way different to stay in a slang or to stay in a rural environment. It's quite different. Political data are no data in some way, because it's difficult, but they, because I give you an example. When 3 or 4 years ago, the colleagues of NIRI coming in my town, and they have found a chimney near our institute. Okay, they work in Nagpur, and there is already an area near Nagpur to power plants. And the colleagues said, okay, this chimney is capable to pollute an area about 20 kilometers square kilometers. That is my town, more or less. I have a meeting with the regional department of health. I have talked with one of the manager about the possibility to make a bilateral project for monitoring. And the reply from the manager was, the election day is too narrow. Okay? Then the political data can arrive or not. And the collaboration does not start, because was interested to study, for instance, the different contamination in a subtropical area like India with a different area like Mediterranean times. In terms of exposome, I think more or less the people deciding they have the information, clinical information, but they don't want to give us because the political data